6 hours in heaven. I haven't spent 6 seconds in heaven. Unfair. No. Sorry, Lord. Tell me about it. How did it happen?
Well, the first half hour was dead on my way to the Milky Way. I call that 1/2 hour approximately. They said I was dead a minimum of 1/2 hour with no vital signs because they gave up trying to do CPR. That was on Father's Day, June 21st, 1984. I think it was Father's Day. And then October 22nd, he seems to love to visit me in October. October 22nd, 1988, he says, get out of bed, get on your knees. I got out of bed. That's it. The experience I just told you. My wife is singing a new song that God gave her to our intercessors, elderly people that have been interceding for me while I'm walking and praying in Europe. And as she's singing the new song, I'm worshiping the Lord. First, I had heard the song since I come home because she wasn't with me walking. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody turned spotlights on in my face, and I knew in that home there were no spotlights. I opened my eyes and saw the golden cloud coming through the ceiling. Instantly, I hit the floor with my knees. The instant my knees touched the floor, I was on the street of gold. I was taking a step, and I looked up and realized I'm on the street of gold. I looked down. The gold is a cherry hue of color, transparent. It's so pure. And I pulled my foot back and realized my right foot was on solid gold. I thought I'd just disappear through it because it looked transparent. And so I started walking. And that's when I began to experience the atmosphere of heaven.
What's the atmosphere of heaven like?
The first thing I noticed was the fragrance of flowers. I've always loved flowers. I look at the flowers on each side of the street of gold, and I just thought, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. And the instant I said, you're so beautiful, the leaves on the stems were clapping. Their faces turned toward this golden glow that was coming. And they were singing the most beautiful song. All praise, glory, honor, and thanksgiving to the Father for creating us and making us worthy to serve the redeemed. Every living thing I found in that journey in heaven that God had created, it lives to serve the redeemed. And when the redeemed notice it and give thanks or utilize like the fruit of the tree, the whole tree goes into a spasm of clapping, and that song comes out of the trees, out of the flowers, out of the grass as you step on it and step off of it. And all of that song from creation goes back to the throne in prismatic light like rainbows. The words turn into light and go back to the throne. Why? God is light and the author of light. So everything comes from light. It goes back to him as light when it's praised. The other thing I noticed as I got behind a person, they went to the tree that had many different kinds of fruit, went to pick that fruit, but didn't pick it. Just put his hand under it, and the tree let go of the fruit into his hand. You don't need to pick fruit in heaven. The creation knows it's to serve you. And the instant that fruit was in his hand, the trees went into that clapping, rejoicing that it was made worthy to serve the redeemed. I watched the person come back to the street of gold with the grass singing, because every blade of grass that's been stepped on is singing, so it's building into a beautiful chrysanthemum of singing. And just going to the throne. He's eating all he wants. I'm following him. He gets as much as he wants. He just drops the rest. And I thought, no, don't litter on the street of gold. Before it hit the street of gold, it vaporized, disappeared. You can pick flowers every day in heaven and put them in your beautiful white marble walls. They never fade. They look as fresh as the day you picked them. You get tired, you want different ones, you go pick new ones, you pull those out, drop them. Before they hit the floor, they disappear. There's no garbage collectors, no compost piles in heaven. Nothing wastes in heaven. In heaven, there have got to be 88 more spectrums of 8 colors in heaven than there are on earth. When I went through the Milky Way and passed all of those planets 4 years before into the Milky Way, I made the statement, every single planet is a distinctively different color. Every planet has a distinctively different song or sound. In Job, God asked Job, where were you when the morning stars sang together? He didn't know. He'd never heard them. I've heard them. The number one specialist of the Milky Way, that man asked me where I got my doctorate in astronomy. He said, you answered questions for me that I have had for 16 years. I'm the world's leading specialist on the Milky Way. And you're up there tonight talking about the Milky Way like it's all common knowledge. You made revelation after revelation to me. You answered question after question. Where did you learn this? What periodical did you read? I held up the Bible. He says, is that the Bible? Is that all? I said, all. Come on, brother. That's everything. The God of this word is the God of the universe.
Let me take you back to age 17. You're working. You go by a meeting with someone I've only heard of and I've seen videotape of, A.A. Allen.
Yes.
And you decide to go in.
Oh, yeah.
This is when he got his original gifting. I like to trace these things. Tell us about it.
I had been in his meetings with Dad since I was 12 years old.
Oh, what a great heritage.
Yeah, I saw the 19 tent poles fire around them. Fire trucks were all around it. They rolled up the flaps. The fire marshal said, we're evacuating immediately, okay? That was 12 years old, 1954. So
that explains the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's why I just come from night school. I started my first year of university. And I see his big top. And I thought, wow, I haven't been in his meeting for years. I pull in, all these cars are everywhere. I park way out. I'm making my way in. I come in the main entrance of the tent, and Alan is up there, and he just, I guess, finished preaching. And he says, now, if you want to experience the power of God like you've never experienced it before, get up here. I was a runner in high school. I took off and I beat everybody. I got the first run up on that ramp. His hands come down on me like two electrodes, and he released a capacitor of full charge. People said I spun in the air over the ramp. I became a holy roller that night. I was rolling back and forth till they emptied the tent out, except for just a little, till 12, 15 people still sitting on the front row watching me. I heard people say, he's coming too. I sit up, I'm full of sawdust. I had more hair then. My hair was full of sawdust. My sweater was full of sawdust. And I said, wow, what happened? And they told me what happened after he hit me. I went out to my car after that, got in the car, shut the door, my 1949 Oldsmobile, first car, okay? But I thought the dome light stayed on. And I looked up at the dome light, it wasn't on. But when I looked up, in my periphery, I saw my face in the rearview mirror. It was glowing like a light bulb. Amen. I looked and I said, I'm glowing. I'm glowing. Every traffic light I stopped at, people looked at, look at that guy. He's glowing. I said, yeah, I'm glowing. It's Jesus.
You told me a story that fascinated me about the rabbis and the gold dust.
Oh, I love that. I had finished walking Jerusalem, every street of the old city and the new city of Jerusalem for 13 days and nights, and praying over Jerusalem. The Lord sent me to do that in 1989. I finished out on Bethlehem Road, and I ran out of water. Liberty Bell Park is out there. I went over and stretched out on the park bench, trying to cool off. I was hot. And all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed. Somebody sits down on the end of the bench and hits my fingers. I look, and it's a rabbi with a long gray beard. And they didn't want to speak to me. I was a Gentile. I'd learned that in those 13 days. And so I didn't try to strike up a conversation. I noticed a young lady with about a 4-year-old was swinging. I figured it was his granddaughter and daughter. And so I just pulled my arm away, and I'm just sitting. And then he says, he's got his back to me. He's sitting on the edge of the chair with his arm up on the back of it, with his back to me. And finally he says, are you here on tour? And I says, no, I'm here on business. He said, would I be nosy if I asked your business? And he still got his back to me. I says, no, sir, you wouldn't. I said, I have just finished walking every street of the old city and the new city, praying for the peace of Jerusalem. He spins around, he looks at me, and he says, but you're a Gentile. Why would you pray for the peace of Jerusalem? And I said, not only am I Gentile, sir, but I said, I am a Christian. And I believe Jesus Christ is my Messiah. I'm sorry you don't. He says, yeah, I know all about that. I was rabbi in New York. They're always trying to convert me. He says, you have any family? And I told him how many children. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I told you, praying for the peace of Jerusalem. And he says, you know how many children you got? You know what that means in the ancient Hebrew? I says, no. I says, well, it means that I got a baker's dozen. I got 13. I got a baker's dozen. And my quiver's full. He says, you know what that means in the ancient Hebrew? I says, no, I'm interested. Now he's talking to me. He says, in the ancient Hebrew, you have 12 arrows in the quiver. You have one in your bow. You're ready for war, young man. I said, yeah, I'll take it, you know. And the daughter looked over at me because I thought maybe we were getting into a fight, I guess. And I says, hey, there's something going on in America now, here in 1989. I've heard of it, and I've only been in one church where it's happening. Gold is falling from heaven while we're worshiping Jesus. And it was the first he stuttered. He starts stuttering. Gold? I mean, you mean real gold? Where is it coming from? It's just falling through the ceiling, coming down. A church in West Virginia, they told me, so much fell, they swept it up and paid off the mortgage. He says, gold, real gold. I says, that gold, they said, was 99.9% pure gold. And he just goes kind of into shock. Gold is falling on the Gentiles. Gold is falling on the Gentiles. I said, wow, that must really mean something to you. Oh, yes. He says, in the ancient Hebrew, before the bridegroom comes to take his bride, he always sends her a gift of gold by midnight. He said it means the Messiah is coming. The Messiah is coming. Daughter, come. She comes, grabs her daughter off the swing. What is it, Papa? I must get back to Nazareth. I must let my people know. Gold is falling on the Gentile. The Messiah is coming. And he walking away. Thank you. I must get back to Nazareth. Boy, I was a critic of this gold up till then because I didn't know. I'd seen a lot of manifestations. That took the criticism right out of me. I've never been critical since.